Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jacques, and I thank Andrea and everybody involved in organizing the conference for bringing me back to Toronto. It's good to be here and good to see everybody. I also don't have any images, and I thought about trying to convince you that it is because I've decided that PowerPoint is an implement of Western control. Trying to get back in touch with my history, my oral tradition, cultural history, but really it's just that I'm very badly organized. For those of you in the room who I know and have known for a long while, you know that I worked at the Art Gallery of Ontario for, I hate to admit it, the better part of 20 years. Another reason that I have no slides is that as I tried to think about what I was going to say today, I kept sort of digging myself into these deep pits of depression, thinking about those 2 decades set in the building next door. So I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to go way, way back to a project that got me involved in thinking about the intersections of art and race, and then tell you a little bit about my current experience in Victoria. So going way back to the early 90s, I did an MA in art history at York University. Now I proudly say that I'm a graduate of the York University's art history department because there are some remarkable things going on there. When I was there, it was a pretty kind of old school, elbow patchy, tweedy art history department. And it took me a while to graduate because I had to wait for them to hire somebody who would let me do the project I wanted to do. And what I did was looked at an artist named Prudence Heward, who was a white woman, British descent, working in Montreal in the 20s and 30s, who inexplicably to me had painted this series of pictures of nude black women. And when I explored what had been written about this artist, when I asked curators and art historians why they thought she had done this series of paintings, I found their answers really quite unsatisfactory. So I decided to explore for myself what might have motivated this, and to make a very long story short, because I think it was 100 pages in the end, what I ended up doing was more or less a social history of Montreal in the 20s and 30s, exploring issues of race in that city center, looking at jazz, at the railroad, at the influx of women from the Caribbean who were working as domestic workers in the homes of wealthy people in Westmount. And the conclusion that I came to was that Prudence Heward, as a white woman, the daughter of a wealthy Anglo family in Montreal, in order to compete with her male counterparts, male painters in that scene, she had to be able to paint the nude figure. And it would not have been appropriate for a woman of that class and social standing to be in a studio with a white female nude person. So she had easy access to black female bodies, and they were supposed to be nude because they were exotic. So I urge you to look up these images. They're really quite remarkable, and in some ways I've come to realize have set the course of my interests. So now I'm going to skip over 20 years and talk about the fact that I now live in Victoria and Vancouver Island in British Columbia, which is kind of odd that Victoria's already come up today. Charles, nice to see you again. I was just looking up some demographics, and this is misleading because Victoria is it's an unamalgamated conglomeration of a lot of little towns, but the city of Victoria itself, according to the 2011 census, had 850 Black people living there. 1% of the population. So what I'm currently doing at this strange institution that decided it was a good idea to hire a Black chief curator in a town with such a small Black population is looking at the history of that place and looking at the history of all of the racialized communities that have lived there, and I'm trying to figure out how to create a strategic direction for that kind of institution that allows us to talk about all of us who live there and what it means for us to be there together. And remarkably, one last little mention of the AGO. Victoria it's a much more responsive place to trying to introduce those conversations, and everything that the gallery does is about responding to community and opening up conversations in the community. So I end on a note of hope. Thank you.